Hi, guys. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated. It truly, truly is. Before we get started, please let me give you my usual disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next. If you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. It really helps me out and I would really, really appreciate it. And with that, let's get started. 19-year-old Robin West from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, had a slightly troubled childhood. Her parents divorced when she was just a baby, and she would grow up living with her mother, yearning for a relationship with her father. But they would ultimately reconnect when she was a teen. She struggled in school as early as kindergarten and was put on meds to help with her diagnosed ADHD. But her family claims that they believe that because of her mood swings, that indicated a more serious issue, but it was never officially diagnosed. High school was extremely difficult for her. She struggled with reading. She was unable to do addition or fractions, but she was able to do algebra very well. I can't do fractions either, or algebra, so good on you, girl. I'm just saying. Ultimately, though, Robin would drop out of high school, and this would be a decision she would regret. When Robin was 14 years old, a close family friend that she considered a second mom to her died suddenly. At this point, her troubles began to increase and she started running away from home. This is the reason that her family didn't worry when she initially went missing 6 days before her 20th birthday on September 5th. However, as her milestone birthday grew closer and she still wasn't answering calls or texts, they decided to call police. On September 1st, firefighters were battling a house fire at an abandoned home in Orange, New Jersey. It was there that they found the badly burned body of a young female.
The fire was strongest on Robin West. And that doesn't just happen, ladies and gentlemen. In your own common sense, that doesn't happen. The human body's just not that flammable. That doesn't make sense. All this unburned wood and flooring in the attic on the other side, away from her body, again attesting to the focus of the fire being Miss West's remains.
Her body would spend 2 weeks in the morgue before dental records were able to positively ID her.
10th, I believe it was, 2016. That's when her mom called me. And she said to me, she said, "Oh, they found Robin." So I said, "Let's go get her." She said, "No, they found her body." So I think the whole block probably heard me scream. I hit the wall and it was like butter sliding down the wall. So from that point, it just got worse.
Her family would later learn that Robin was in the work industry. Let me just be very clear, first of all, that I in no way, shape, or form believe that this defines her as a person, nor do I believe that her or anyone else in this industry deserve to lose their lives just because they're trying to get their head above water. I don't. This is 33-year-old Joanne Brown. Joanne struggled her entire life with mental illness, homelessness, and poverty. She was found dead in a vacant home in Newark, New Jersey, with duct tape wrapped around her mouth and face. Joanne was described as a beautiful person who had gone missing in mid-October of 2016, and she wouldn't be found until December 5th of 2016. Tiffany Taylor. Tiffany Taylor was the third victim in this story. In November of 2016, Tiffany was 5 months pregnant and homeless. November of 2016, Tiffany was hanging out with her friend at the Ritz Motel in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Her former best friend, who was her best friend at the time, is now her former best friend, was a worker and met Khalil Wheeler on a dating app and had him as a client. She asked Tiffany if she wanted to make some extra money by picking him up and giving him a ride. So Tiffany agrees. She goes to pick up Wheeler and she's driving him to his destination. He tells her that he no longer needs that ride because he was tired and he just wanted to go get a room. So Tiffany brings him to a motel called the Linden Motor Inn. Tiffany gets out to rent the room, even though she had no intentions of staying there because she already had a room for the night with her friend. But she got out to rent the room. Then she gets back into the car and she tells Wheeler that they're very expensive and she suggests that they try a different hotel. So they begin driving again. As Tiffany's driving, Wheeler asks her to pull down a side block so that he could pee real quick. Tiffany does. And next thing she knows, she wakes up in the backseat of the car where she is being R-worded from behind, and until she loses consciousness several times. So she would lose consciousness, she would come back. She would lose it, come back, lose it, come back. At one point during this, he takes off his ski mask and he asks her if she remembers him. When she asks him to refresh her memory, he tells her that he has hung out with her before with the person who is now her ex-best friend and the person that asked her to give him a ride. That is when it clicks for Tiffany, and she realizes that Wheeler had a crush on her at one point and that he was also the guy that Tiffany and her then best friend had robbed for a couple $100 months prior to this. Okay, so the way this story goes, Wheeler invites Tiffany to an abandoned home for... Tiffany tells him to pay her first. After he pays her, she tells him that she accidentally left the condom in the car and that she'll be right back. And she assures him that she'll be right back by leaving her purse with him to prove it. What he didn't know at the time was that the purse was completely empty. So Tiffany went down, got in her car, and she took off with his money. Tiffany says she truly believes that if she didn't rob Wheeler that night, that he would have her. Mainly because it was an abandoned building, which is the exact same setup as his other victims. The third and final time that she woke up, Wheeler handcuffed her and wrapped duct tape around her face and all the way up to her nose. Because of Tiffany's sweat and her crying, the glue on the duct tape began to loosen and Tiffany was able to talk. So Wheeler's driving her car and she's in the back seat and she informs him that she left her cell phone back at the hotel and that it had contained all of their text conversations from that day. So, of course, Wheeler really wants this phone back, right? Then she goes on to tell him that there's an old man that's hanging out in her room and that she could convince him to give them some money. So Wheeler says, okay, because he wants the phone and she's promising him that this old man at the hotel will give him cash. Okay. While he's driving to the hotel, she is able to secretly break out of one of the handcuffs. This is because she's double jointed. Wheeler pulls up to the hotel, parks the car, takes the duct tape off of Tiffany's face, helps her out of the car, puts a jacket over her shoulders to conceal the handcuffs that he didn't know she had slipped out of, or she had slipped out of the one. And he's under the impression that Tiffany is going to run into the room, grab the phone, come out with the old man, and give him cash and the phone.
She come out, the defendant leans in, lifts her up, and she's facing towards the car. Again, corroborating the handcuffs. You can also see here and there that the sleeves of her jacket are flopping because they've been placed over to conceal the handcuffs.
So Tiffany runs into the room and she tells her guy friend what just happened to her. During this, Wheeler's banging on the hotel room door. That's when Tiffany opens the curtain and she shows Wheeler that she had gotten out of one handcuff. Spooked, he flees and the friend calls 911. He didn't flee far though. He didn't even flee the property while the police were there. Elizabeth police did Tiffany dirty, and it's a damn shame. They hardly believed her, even though she was physically, like her whole face was physically noticeable, very noticeable. And she told them, if you go down to my car, you'll see my teeth. She was spitting teeth out of her onto the floor of her car.
What injuries do you what injuries do you have?
Look at my face and the duct tape.
For the what?
From the duct tape, my face.
When did he duct tape you?
Huh?
In the car?
In the car.
So you let him duct tape you, or what happened? I just need to know.
He put the handcuffs on me first. He choked me out, and after he choked me with one hand.
What was all happened in the car?
Yeah.
Where were you parked at this time? The gas station over there?
No, it was by the gas station. No.
It was by the gas station? It was in his car.
It was in his car.
So he took the duct tape with him.
Had to, yeah.
And he just ran away?
Ran away.
At one point during this, Wheeler walks past the room while she's speaking to police. And she points him out to them. So they go get him, they bring him over, and they say to her, is this him? Tiffany, still visibly shaken, says that she believes so. This is when the police tell her that believing that this is him is not good enough, and they let him go without even checking his ID. It's also important to note that prior to this, she gave Elizabeth police his name, his Facebook, and his age. And had they taken the claims more seriously, we would not have to talk about 20-year-old Sara Butler. You done fucked up, Elizabeth. Elizabeth police, you done fucked up. 20-year-old Elizabeth Butler would go missing just 8 days later. Sara was a very passionate dancer who attended Premier Dance for 17 years. She performed at the Apollo Theater several times and danced with Montclair High School Dance Company. She was an extremely hard worker who was juggling school at New Jersey City University and worked as a lifeguard at the YMCA at the same time. Sara was reported missing just days before Thanksgiving on November 22nd, 2016. She told her parents that she was going to say goodbye to a friend and that she would be back shortly. From there, Sara is seen pulling up to a 7-Eleven with Wheeler in the car. Okay, Wheeler gets out. He goes inside to buy an iced tea and condoms. His cell phone would then track them to Eagle Rock Reservation, which is a 408-acre park in West Orange, New Jersey, where Sara Butler would lose her life that night.
The growing memorial outside her father's home, Butler says he hasn't really thought of the arrest or the suspect. His face doesn't look familiar, but nothing feels like it used to for this father of 5. His 4th youngest daughter is gone.
I seen a picture of him. I can't really say right now. I can only see my daughter's face right now. It give me a sense of hope, but like our main concern and main focus right now is burying her. Once we get her buried, and then we could send our, we could focus elsewhere.
I'm wondering how many girls he's hurt like this. I'm just hoping the number isn't large because what he did to my sister was terrible.
So, who is this trash bag and how did he finally get brought to justice, right? Okay. Well, what I will tell you first is that it wasn't the police that would end up solving this case. Even though Tiffany basically handed them this guy on a silver platter wrapped in a red friggin' bow. Khalil Wheeler Weaver was 20 years old at the time and had multiple relatives in law enforcement. He lived in Orange, New Jersey with his mother, and he worked as a security guard for ShopRite in Union, New Jersey. 2 days after Sara Butler was found, her sister and her friends hacked into one of her social media accounts called Tagged. Sarah's sister remembered that her sister was talking to somebody on the app the night that she went missing. They found that the last guy she had spoken to that night went by the username Little Yacht Rock, who offered to pay her $500 for. Eerily enough, Sarah actually says to him, "You're not a serial, are you?" The friends sent Wheeler a message and he responded to them the exact same way that he had responded to Sarah, by offering her or them cash for, not knowing that it was a setup, obviously. I don't tell you guys that, right? The friends eventually decide to meet the person behind the Little Yacht Rock account at a nearby Panera Bread. Wheeler takes the bait, and the girls send the Montclair police there instead. Little Yacht Rock gave police his real name when they interviewed him. 5 days later, Sarah's body would be found at Eagle Rock Reservation, and 1 day after that, on December 6, 2016, Little Yacht Rock, Khalil Weaver Wheeler Weasel Wheeler would be brought into custody. I'm not completely sure if he's just that dumb and wanted to be caught, or if he didn't believe that anybody loved these girls enough to worry about their whereabouts. Maybe it's a combination, but when officers confiscated Weasel Wheeler's phone, they found disturbing searches done, including how to make homemade poison and what chemicals can you put on a person's face to make them go to sleep immediately. Weasel Wheeler pled not guilty on 11 charges, but the jury wasn't buying his story.
State versus Khalil Wheeler Weaver.
A security guard at a ShopRite in Union Township said nothing in Judge Wigler's courtroom as he was indicted.
It was her plea of not guilty on all charges.
He was first picked up by authorities in early December after 20-year-old college student Sara Butler, who had been missing since November 23rd, was found strangled to death at the Eagle Rock Reservation in West Orange. Investigators then linked him to the 33-year-old Joanne Brown, who was also found strangled to death inside a vacant building in Newark December 5th. Victims' family members were in court, including those of the third alleged target, 19-year-old Robin West, whose body was found September 1st inside an abandoned building in Orange. Few details have been given about the fourth unidentified victim who managed to survive.
He was found guilty and was sentenced to 160 years in prison. Bye. While incarcerated, Weasel Wheeler was found guilty in the death of 15-year-old MawaDoubia, who was last seen by her father and sister when she left her Newark home on October 7, 2016. When she didn't return home, she was reported missing, but efforts to find her were unsuccessful. It is alleged that after they met up, Weasel Wheeler her to death and left her remains in an abandoned building. She wouldn't be found until May 9th, 2019, on the second floor of an old and abandoned carriage house in Orange, New Jersey. And it would take them until November 5th, 2021 to identify her body. All right, guys, if you're still here, thank you. I appreciate you so very much. If you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. If you have any suggestions, email me, harding527@yahoo.com. I promise that if the information is on my side, that I will try my best to get to it. It's a little harder now because school started again. But I promise I will try my hardest to get them done for you guys as quickly as possible. And until next time, stay safe out there. I love you guys.